Welcome to the CareerLab podcast with your hosts, America's career counselor, Julie LaCroix and Joel Siegel.
Hello, Julie, and how are you today?
I'm doing great, Joel. How are you?
Well, I'm doing okay, and let's welcome each other back to CareerLab.
Yeah.
We've had a little break here where we've been doing whatever we're doing, which means we've been working.
I've been busy getting my son graduated and ready for college and orientation. Probably a lot of parents this time of year are doing that kind of thing.
I know that a lot of our listeners want to hear that about you because they're interested in you, as America's career counselor, and they're interested in your life. And it's so exciting that your son has not only graduated, but is on his way to college and is quite an athlete from what I hear, too.
He is, but in all honesty, to every listener out there, I'm just as nervous about it as you are.
Well, you don't show it.
Well, thanks.
And I've been toiling away, working hard for my clients, helping them make money and enjoy life and understanding the boundary between finances and ethics in business.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of very interesting things going on.
Good.
Now, today, we have a couple of surprises, but the first one, and we're real excited about this, we're going to begin to feature some guests on CareerLab. These are people that Julie and I have curated as appropriate people to come on and talk to about the whole idea of either getting a career, achieving a career, transitioning a career, and maintaining a career. And today we're going to start with actually a client of mine, a doctor. His name is Tom Calkins, and we're going to interview him and find out a little bit about his story. So this is going to be an opportunity for all of you out there who are already doing something or want to be doing something and are trying to hear from someone who has made a mark in one career and is now transitioning to another.
To the listeners out there, I often have adult professionals who otherwise look fully employed and at full skill level, successful in their fields and happy with what they're doing. But at some stage of expertise and confidence and financial readiness and general career readiness, they're ready to take that big step into entrepreneurship or a partnership or carve out a niche within a company or buy a company or do something that is structurally different. And that is a risk and it takes a lot of planning, but it's a very exciting time. There are a lot of complexities to it. And I am usually the doorway. People who are interested in making these kinds of steps usually reach out to me. And that's exactly what happened with our caller, Dr. Calkins. And so I worked with him a little to assess the situation and kind of check it out. Like, does it check all the career boxes in terms of is this person at the right stage of career and mental health and career health and skill level health? And he certainly was. And so I referred him over to Joel, and they've been working together for the last probably year, Joel, 2 years maybe?
I think, just about 2 years.
Yeah, and Dr. Calkins is quite a success story. So we wanted to use this call as a showcase about what CareerLab can really do for you. If you wanted to work with Joel and me on making a more significant executive transition, this is an example of some of the work that we can do. And this one primarily falls on Joel, so I'm going to let him take the lead today because I teed it up for him and he knocked the ball completely out of the park. And I think you're really going to enjoy listening to Dr. Calkins.
Okay, well, let's see if we can find him and get him on the line.
Hello?
Hello, Tom. This is Joel Siegel. How are you today?
Oh, great, Joel.
And, of course, you're also on with Julie LaCroix, America's career counselor, and my compatriot.
Hi, Julie.
Hey, Tom. Long time no chat.
That's right. It's been a long time.
It sounds
Thanks for calling me.
Sounds like you've been very busy and working forward in some of the ideas that you had coming in. And it's been wonderful listening to kind of the themes and gyrations that have gone on to get you where you are today. And I'm glad that your dream has realized. So it's really nice to have you on the show, and I'm anxious to hear more detail about it.
Oh, yeah. And thank you both for your advice and direction and continued friendship. I appreciate that, too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, it's good. It's really good to have you. And, of course, as I think we told the listeners before you came on, I've been your business coach for a couple of years and have helped you, develop some things that you're now doing. And one of the reasons I wanted to have you on as a guest, because part of what we do on CareerLab. And in this podcast, Tom, is we not only talk about developing careers, but transitioning careers, growing careers, and changes in careers. I know that I think it's going to be very helpful, if not inspiring, for our listeners to hear a little bit about what happened with you. When I was a kid, my mom and dad sat me down and they said, "What did you want to be?" And I said, whatever I said, probably a baseball player or whatever, and they said to me, "Well, whatever you do, make sure that it's not the only thing you do." And I said, "What do you mean? That's ridiculous." And they said, "Well, because we believe that a person should do more than one thing with their life professionally." And I didn't really understand that, even though I was a teenager at the time, and my first career turned out to be one they probably wouldn't have chosen for me. But it turns out that that was wonderful, sage advice, because I have done a couple of different careers, as you know, and as I think some of our listeners know. And it's enriched me tremendously as a person. And so we now want to talk about that with you. Okay.
Oh, absolutely.
Good. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your background as a physician, what you're doing, and where you work, and kind of what you specialize in?
Sure. Well, similar to you, Joel, like I when I first started out, I always wanted to be a doctor, and then I went through undergrad. Then between undergrad and medical school, I was actually a research biologist for a bit of time. And when I went through some soul searching and met with a career counselor to really kind of make sure what I was doing was what I wanted to do, and it's paid out of pocket, and someone recommended a career counselor, and I had a great experience with that, and I was able to kind of really solidify what I wanted to do, and applied to medical school and took an entrance exam and really had the eye of the tiger. And so I've been doing that for 20 years almost. It's kind of 19 years now, and almost 20 years this next year.
Props to the college career counselor there. Every listener out there, if you are in college or in an alumni association, do not hesitate to reach back to your career services center, because right here we're hearing from a very successful individual that solidified a hunch, and I'm glad that you took the opportunity to get outside help. Moving on to your story, I had to give props to my team there.
Sure. So I've worked at several different hospitals and settled on a career in emergency medicine. Went to residency in emergency medicine, so I'm a board-certified emergency medicine doctor, and it's super exciting. And when I first started to do it, all I wanted to do was just save people's lives and, put chest tubes in people and do crazy procedures and, be the hero of the day. Now, 20 years into it, my interests in healthcare have switched, and my interests in my personal needs have really switched. And like I had that success initially with the career counselor, that's when I reached out to Julie, because I was thinking about transitioning my career to some type of administrative career. Ironically, right now, I'm probably the best doctor I've ever been. So I'm almost 50. I've been practicing for some time. Almost nothing I haven't seen yet.
Wow.
But it's almost, I'm not bored, but it's almost looking for a new challenge in my life.
Can I jump in here, Tom, for a minute?
Energy. Yeah, go ahead.
Good. So I'm really glad to hear your story, because I know when you and I started to work together, I knew you were a highly accomplished physician who was really, really functioning at the top of your game. And I want to say that so our listeners understand the background of this. What you've achieved in your current career at your current hospital is remarkable, not just financially, but in terms of the services you provide, your ability to treat patients in a very complex, very stressful, and very dense setting, surrounded by all kinds of non-medical complexities as well, like finances, hospitals, managed care, etc. So you really were doing that at a great level. And yet, as you say, there were some other things going on in you. And I know that during our work together, you were able to identify this need in your professional area that was not being fulfilled. And could you tell us what that need was?
I felt like now that I had practiced for so long, I had insights into the healthcare system that no one was addressing, or I feel like people were trying to address it but didn't have my perspective.
Yeah, tell us about those. What was that gap that you found?
Well, I think the gap is one thing I love about my practice is regardless of your ability to pay or who you are or where you're from, I just treat you. You come in through the front door. The EMTALA Act from Congress mandates me to treat everyone, regardless of their ability to pay. So, you come through the front door, I treat you. So I end up seeing people from having a hangnail to all the way to having a stroke or a heart attack and everything in between. And so many times I see people and patients of mine that, wow, this could have been dealt with or could have been avoided. This healthcare issue with this patient, if they just had the X, Y, and Z component that would work. And the flip side with the system as well. So not just with managing the patient, but also with managing the hospital system. Well, if they just upstaffed during these peak hours and downstaffed during the slower hours in the morning, you'd have the same amount of staffing, but more efficiencies that could go through the system. So I really felt like my perspective was very unique in how to have some better efficiencies and provide better care for people.
And also, if I can jump in, Tom, it was kind of when we started working, let me sort of say to our listeners so they get it in a more simple way. You identified that there's a huge class of adults who are using the emergency room when they don't need to. These adults are called high utilizers or frequent flyers.
Correct.
These people come to the emergency room as much as 100 times a year at a minimum cost of anywhere between $1,700 to $17,000 or more dollars. And what you did was I remember you telling me specifically, this is not sustainable. And it wasn't just about the people or the amount of effort or the physicians involved. You realized at this point with brilliant insight that this was a model that was breaking the healthcare system in the United States, and it needed to change.
Right.
And of course, with my own background, I was very resonant with that. And I thought to myself, well, here's a client who's got a brilliant idea, who's already doing something in his life that's completely fulfilling, that has managed to be a whole, well-rounded career, yet sees an opportunity and a need, and he wants to fulfill that. So, as your coach, I said, let's go for it, right?
Yeah. So Joel was incredibly supportive and helped me navigate some pitfalls initially on who to partner with and how to manage myself and how to manage other people and manage basically the trajectory of my career in this new phase that I knew nothing about. Here I'm the ER doctor. That's all I've been focused on is taking really good care of patients. It's really refreshing to kind of keep your head up and look around and see what's available, but to have a mentor of someone to look at those other options was really helpful, Jill, and I really appreciate that. Just to give credit where credit's due, I'm not the first person to kind of look at these problems of healthcare, but there's other emergency physicians in Washington and Spokane and really started with Dr. Brenner in Camden, New Jersey, looking at from a primary care doctor perspective about people inefficiently using the hospital and the emergency department. So there are some programs out there, but there really what needs to happen, and I'm finding this now that we finally have clients, and I'm finally breaking out and have a team that all of these patients have such individual needs, and being able to reach out to them and finding solutions is not super easy, but it's so rewarding. I mean, unbelievably rewarding to me in having this new relationship with patients now that are high utilizers. So we've about 4 patients that we've enrolled so far. We're trying to get up to 50 patients with our current client, who's a accountable care organization that's financially liable for these patients. So they're incentivized to work with me to enroll patients to help reduce the cost of these patients, but also provide better care so that they get better recommendations from other patients to help join their ACO. The patients are just unbelievably grateful. So when I once a month, I walk into this one woman's house. She greets me with a hug. We sit down and we talk about her grandkids and we talk about other things. But in the meantime, I'm able to interject different things. How are you doing with your blood pressure? How are you doing with taking your weight? How are you doing with, your lifestyle choices? And then I have my community health workers that also engage with them, that report back to me on a weekly basis as they're meeting them.
Tom, can I step
really
in?
Kind of exciting way.
It sounds really exciting. It sounds like you've really created, you've found a hole of efficiency and put in a program to streamline both the process of service, fill the gaps in the service, and then amplify the quality of the service and make more money for the hospital and do better for the patients, and also illuminate some of the redundancies or bottlenecks in the system at large. And I'd like to just comment on that for our listeners. You don't have to be an ER physician to get to a level of expertise in your field and then feel a calling that's bigger than the job itself, like Dr. Calkins is explaining. This is actually a wonderful example of a very successful career story where you work on a career trajectory for 10 or 20, 15 or 20 years. You get to that level of expertise, and I went back and said 15 or 20 because it's not 10. You get to a level of expertise where you really, like he said, there isn't much I haven't seen, and I'm the best doctor. I'm at the stage where I'm the best doctor I've ever been. That's when you know it's safe to drop your pencil, lift your chin, and look around and figure out how you can then utilize that knowledge base as a new skill to do something structurally that will improve your industry or your company or the policies driving the performance and the operations and the compliance and the regulatory of that industry. So for the listeners out there, this is an example in the frame of the healthcare system, a wonderful example. But I'll bet that if you are on track, you're really liking what you're doing, if you're 10, 15 years into your career path and you're starting to feel like, wow, I'm starting to see a lot of patterns here, I'm starting to be seen as an expert, keep going in that direction. Give it another 5 years and then look for those opportunities for the second career to begin to germinate. In Dr. Calkins' case, he's now a businessman. He's a practicing physician who's now a businessman. That was not the case the first 15 or 20 years of his career. This is a really exciting story.
You know, it's interesting, Julie. I'm just thinking about what you're just saying. My relationships that I built up during these 19, 20 years of practicing have been with other providers have been the leading point to kind of building this business. So right now, the ACO that I'm working with a physician that I've worked with for over 15 years at the current hospital I work at, that we have a wonderful professional connection. We've worked on patients before, but he was starting an ACO and found out that he has all this, these patients that are really difficult patients to manage. And we just, through our conversations, he needed my service. I needed his patients.
Right.
And because we have that great relationship of I've managed his patients before in the ER and he trusts me and I trust him because he comes and helps me out when I need his help, that relationship flourished. So the same thing's actually happening at UCI. UCI is in a very similar circumstance. University of California, Irvine, it's where I went to medical school and trained as a resident and then was a faculty for a while.
Nice.
So those relationships there, I reached out to them and I said, they must be having this problem too, of frequent high utilizers that are coming in, bogging up the ER. They have waits of up to 8 to 9 hours to get in, to get to a bed to be seen. I mean, that's incredible. You go to an ER, you get to be seen. They're fantastic physicians there, but they just can't sustain that. And so my relationships with my previous colleagues who are now matriculated, one of them's an assistant dean, one of them's the chief medical information officer. Because I've worked hard with them and we've trusted each other, I've been able to build on that relationship, and they've reached out to me and I've reached out to them, and to get a program going also at UCI. So we're actually in the works. Hopefully within the next 6 months, we'll start enrolling patients at UCI as well, hopefully get an academic paper out of it that promotes their careers, but also hopefully helps our business grow and that business model grow as well.
Exactly. Your business will grow and you can see the doorway.
Go ahead. I'm so sorry.
No, you can see the doorway right there into some systemic change. And I just want to point out that reciprocity is absolutely magic. So for our listeners now, the relationships that are creating reciprocal business opportunities at the expert level are the key. You want to position yourself for this, guys. This is why a young adult should work in a company and not remotely. I tell all of my young adults when they're establishing their career, for the first 10 years of your career, shy away from trying to become an entrepreneur in a minibus cruising around selling, apparel out of the back of the, with your store. Get in an apparel company, build relationships and build skills with apparel people who can see what you can do and who can help you, so that when you are ready to do your entrepreneurship, you have a good pool of people, a good set of skills, a great knowledge base, and you really understand at a bigger, more significant level what your power would be as an entrepreneur. This is a fabulous example of a well-managed career arc. Well, it's a wonderful story, Tom.
Okay, well, let me just break in here because we want to give, there's one part of the story that's missing, and I was a part of the story. So I want to be able to have you share it, Tom, and also give you a little chance to talk about WellPop. That part of the story is that in your transition, because I know this and I coached you through it, you went from being an incredibly effective doctor to an incredibly effective doctor and a businessman, and you built a company. We built it together, you and I, and now it is a fully formed and developed company, and a company that isn't a place to acquire business. And that's really what the end of this transition story is about, the development of a company that now has the potential to serve this tremendously difficult group of patients that are out there. So why don't you spend a couple minutes telling us about WellPop and how we built WellPop.
And the name.
Sure.
Let's hear the name. That's the story.
Oh, so Joel was incredibly helpful to me. So here I have an idea based on what my friends have done in other places, and they had some great ideas for how to build things, but we wanted to do it really specifically in Orange County, and how do we maximize this opportunity here. And so just an idea and all my experience on itself, wouldn't get me to the next level. What really helped me get to the next level was actually first meeting with Julie, and then having Julie's recommendation to meet with Joel, and then having Joel basically be my coach for, for the last several years now, to really walk me through the process of who do I engage with, who do I partner with, who do I hire, how do I brand myself? And Joel had some incredible resources of a network of people that he works with for branding and for artistic design and ideas of, we got to have a website. How do we have a website? So, and then it really kind of gave me the outline, and basically helped me fill in that outline. And so it was really nice to have someone kind of show the light down the path of, this is what needs to happen.
Well, in the right order and the right sequence too.
Correct.
That's Joel's
Correct.
magic. Yeah.
So now,
so there are many places I could have stumbled and had setbacks, and I feel like the investment in Joel was an investment in a better trajectory for my career and my company. So.
Well, thanks for that, Tom. But clearly, it was your vision, it was your idea, it was your assessment. And I want to say earlier, you mentioned a lot of other people. You're right, of course, had been thinking about this problem and maybe doing it, but that doesn't really matter. You're the one who, in your own professional world, accessed the ability to build a company. And let's give some credit now to the company. So your company is called Wellness Population Solutions, right? And the URL is www.wellpop.org. And if you go to and of course, again, Tom, you created a tremendous acronym for Wellness Population Solutions, because everybody can say WellPop, and it's fun to say. And if you go to the WellPop website, you'll get a chance to see a lot more about what the WellPop team is doing, and how they're expanding the solution to this unbelievable problem. I think one thing I want to do before we finish up, Dr. Calkins, if I can, is just give a little scale and a little perspective to what you're doing. this problem, I mean, I didn't know this until I became an expert in this area by being your business coach. But when I began to actually look at the metrics of the impact of this problem on the healthcare system in the United States, I was flabbergasted and knocked back. And of course, you knew that, obviously. And so we spent many hours talking about that and how there needed to be a solution, or else this problem was just going to spiral out of control to the point where it would be an impact in other areas. People who never go to an emergency room would feel the added cost and burden of this. And so, I want to share the fact that the company you've built and the company you now own and manage is, potentially positioned to really impact a lot of people's lives who never even go to an ER. Because with the reduction in cost, that will make healthcare more affordable and more obtainable for the general population. Huh?
I want a membership.
Go ahead.
I want a membership to WellPop. I would love to go to a doctor that's going to get me right in and keep my costs down and give me your level of care. And that would just be wonderful, and a great name, and just that would be fun.
So what else would you like our listeners to know about the company? Would you like to do anything? Are there any other things you'd like to say? Because this has really been an inspiring story, and we're so grateful we've been able to chat with you this morning.
Yeah, and tell us who your client would be in case any of our listeners are a potential client for you.
So the potential clients would be any kind of healthcare or maintenance organization or Blue Cross, Blue Shield, anyone who has frequent utilizer patients that need kind of high touch care to wrap arms around them. So if you look at a pie chart of issues that lead to disease or what comprises a patient's health, and there's a wonderful graphic that we have that we send up in our presentations, and there's 10% is medications to help with people's health. Another 10% is, doctor's visits. Another 10% is, 40% maybe is diet. And then the social determinants of health is really what we're trying to adjust. Are they attached to senior care living? Do they have family members that come visit them? Basically, my community health workers and myself, we're basically becoming their social network that are really educated on healthcare needs and how a whole wellness of the patient. And that's where the whole wellness population solution comes in. We're looking at the wellness of the patient and throughout different stages of people's lives. And so we're hoping to attack different categories. So right now, we're really working with the Medicare population. Diet, medication compliance, and social connectedness is a huge part. We just fix those things for our 4 patients. All of a sudden, their utilization goes way down. And so we're excited to expand it up to 50 patients soon. And with UCI, we're hoping to get to several hundred patients. And it's only going to get better from there.
Okay, well, let me just bring this back.
Really
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Tom. Let me just bring this back to a little more practical level for people, because Julie asked about, how people can reach out or respond. I just want to say real clearly that in a way that our audience might understand a little better, the primary people that wellness population works with are, older adults who have complex medications and problems managing their medications. We want them to be able to be taken care of with social connectedness without having to use the emergency room. Also, people who have drug abuse problems and other kinds of problems that sometimes lead to them going to the ER to get medications to take care of themselves. There's a very large group of people out there who do that. So, what I want to say is that even though you're not direct to patient at this point, if any of our listeners have these kinds of problems, reach out to Wellness Population Solutions. They'll be happy to direct you to resources, because that's what WellPop is. So if you're a person out there who's using or drinking and going to the ER to get some needs met, consider calling WellPop. Or if you're an older a person who has an older adult in your life who's having trouble managing the complex medications they have, this is what Wellness Population Solutions does, and this is what makes it such a groundbreaking program.
What an amazing service. I'm thinking back to my own personal issue where I had to manage my dad's care after a traumatic health event. I could have used WellPop, and as I traveled down that and took that journey over the course of a year, it compromised my own practice. I had to tell my clients I couldn't come in, or we had to reschedule, or I had a doctor's appointment, and I didn't really know where to start. And almost every single one of my clients said, "I understand. I've been there too." So this is a huge issue that you are addressing, and I'm really, really excited that somebody with your level of care and love and skill is tackling this for our country. I am just thrilled that you came into my practice, Tom. I'm thrilled that you and Joel have been able to weave this story together into an actionable business that's helping both you become who you want to be, and is a success story for Joel as an executive coach, and is on its way to continuing to become an even larger success story to both individuals and any of my Kaiser clients who are out there listening today, because I know I have some execs in the room. This is wellpop.org.
And Tom, we want to be a support for you here at CareerLab. So we'd like to ask, gratefully, that you might come back on the show at some point in the next 6 months and update us on how WellPop is coming along. And we often get lots of downloads and callers and responders to the program, and we're going to move them on to you, and you can either help them directly or get them to the right resource, because it's been a pleasure being able to talk to you this morning.
Oh, likewise. Thank you both, and I look forward to talking to you in the future.
Thanks, Tom.
Okay,
thanks
Tom,
for being on
thanks.
the show.
Take care. Thanks again.
Take care. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. So, this is kind of a story of career transition inspiration.
Absolutely.
And we were very lucky to be able to have Tom on this morning. And I think really the segment kind of speaks for itself. There's not a lot to say except that...
Joel.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Okay. There's a lot more to say, Joel.
Okay. Well, that's what makes you America's career counselor, because you always know there's more to say. Take it away.
Joel, Dr. Calkins is obviously at that expert level and when you get to that expert level, for those of you who aren't there yet, it's an interesting place to be. From where you are, maybe 10 or 15 years into your career, you're probably dreaming of getting to that place where you feel like an expert and the world is coming to you for answers. But trust me, that can be a very ambiguous place for even the finest experts, because there's always a plateau there and a crossroads. What do you do? Do you continue and get burned out? Or do you take it and take that scary step and leverage it? And that's exactly what he did. And what's not being said here, Joel, and what I'd really like to highlight for our listeners, and I think Tom tried to, is that you were the key player here. You were the one that saw the opportunity. Well, I mean, you saw the opportunity, and you went at it with your skill set to logically create sequence, confidence, resources, management, relationships, open doors. You were the wind beneath Dr. Calkins' wings. You really were. And I need you to take some credit for that, because this is really a success story. He's going to do some big things. And this is not the first time you've done this for our clients, Joel. This is one of probably 10 or 12 that I can think of off the top of my head as we're sitting here.
Well, thank you. I mean, it's true. But, to give context to this for all of our listeners, because this is probably the most important part of all of this morning's show, one of the reasons I was so successful with Dr. Calkins, beyond his obvious talent and all the inspiration and all the intellectual property that he brought to the game, was that I really believe that people can and should do more than one thing.
Absolutely.
In transition work, I see a lot of executives who are not burned out. They're doing fine. But I know and they know there's something else. But getting to it and making it happen is a challenge. But I'm telling you that from all my transition work, when people are able to add a second entity or a second thing they're doing, or a passion project, or a different kind of adjunct to their careers, or something else, they are immeasurably happier. Because life isn't about stagnation. Life is about growth, and life is about change. And the only reason why everybody doesn't do it is because it's hard and it's scary. And we all have to admit it's hard and we're scared. But if we get past that, I can't name one client I've ever worked with who didn't have another vision, who didn't have another idea of what they'd like to do.
And the fear to chase after it. And that's what an executive coach is there for. A good executive coach like Joel will help even the most magnificent professionals understand their situation and transition safely and responsibly.
Even if the transition you're thinking of going through doesn't result in a big new career like Dr. Calkins, it's still important to go there
Absolutely.
and try it a little bit.
You have
because
to.
you will feel so much freer that you had at least expressed yourself a little bit. Believe me, I've had patients who took a couple of steps out and then stepped back, but they were still a lot better off, and they still knew a lot more about their world, and they had grown as people. So that's kind of, I think, the message from this morning's
Absolutely.
show.
Creative expression often doesn't come in early career unless you are a self-proclaimed creative or artist. But for those of us who don't really have creative skills, speaking from experience here, I don't really do much artistically. It wasn't until after the age of 40 that I realized that my career really was a medium for me to express my own creativity, even though my creativity is hard to see because it doesn't come in the form of drawing or painting or dancing or singing or something that is more obvious. It's a much different. It's a thinking creativity. It's an abstraction creativity. And I'm glad that Dr. Calkins was able to express that side of his creativity in his business efficiency and being able to get his arms around our world here in the U.S., in the healthcare system, and creatively solve that problem. The problem solving alone is creative. And so when you talk about creative expression, Joel, everybody has it. For those of you who can't paint like me, you have it. Stick with what you're doing, and that creativity will call you and answer that call. That's what you need to do. And when you get to Dr. Calkins' level, it's find somebody, call Joel directly, or find somebody like Joel in your area who can help you bring that message to the surface, because creative expression is a keystone to a profitable, enjoyable, sustainable career.
Julie, you were a financial services professional for a time in your life, and a very successful one.
Yeah,
I was a doctor. I was a psychologist for a
Yeah.
time. So we've had career transitions ourselves.
Absolutely.
To be where we are, and maybe that's why we're so happy and we're loving doing the show.
It's funny. If you would have said from every step that we've been, we probably would have never been able to predict that we're here. But from where we sit now, looking back, it takes all of the training that you and I have collectively to do what we're doing today. So there's magic in changes and happenstance and taking a turn in your career that might not make sense at the moment, but it'll all stitch together for the greater picture, which is really, it all comes together at some point, like it is today for us and like it is for Dr. Calkins.
Okay, well, it's been fun, and we will see all of you soon on another episode of Career Lab.
Bye. Hi, I'm Julie LaCroix, and this is Career Lab. Stop solving the symptom of your problem and solve the problem. Get the career help you need. Like, listen, and subscribe to the Career Lab podcast and share it with your friends. You can find us on Apple, iTunes, Spotify, and anywhere else you can find a podcast. We're also on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube as America's Career Counselor. There are all sorts of resources, videos, links, downloads, everything that you can try to find to get the help that you need. You will find it within the Career Lab universe. You're also welcome to call in. And again, please like, listen, subscribe, and share what you found here on Career Lab.